Hello and welcome to the Resilient Lineage podcast, where we reflect on the past, anticipate the future, and discover what God is up to today. Welcome to part 2 of our series.
Yeah, so we are doing a series called The Warrior Mindset.
We are. Okay, before we get into it,
Yeah.
I had a question I was going to ask you, and I was excited to completely forgot. When you hear warrior, what's like the first thing that comes to mind?
When I hear warrior,
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah.
What was that?
I drank it. A clean.
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't know if it's because there's a Bible study I'm in on Wednesday nights, and we just went over David and Goliath, so that was like the first thing that popped into my mind.
Nice.
And here's why. Okay, so this plays to this whole thing that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, and this is not in our notes, so I'm totally,
Go for it.
we're riffing here. In the story of David and Goliath, the Philistines and the armies of Israel are encamped in this valley. There's this middle spot, and the Philistine Goliath is out there, and he's mocking Israel and all these sort of things. Okay, David is the younger brother. He's been sent by his father to bring supplies to his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes, and it's the time of day when Goliath comes out and mocks the Israel's army. And David, at that time, he hears that and he goes, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that mocks the armies of the Lord?" And that sort of clarity of thought is I think David is very idealistic in that situation. I think he's very romantic probably about his ideas of who God is and what Israel should be able to be accomplished. At the time, Saul has made it, if anybody volunteers to go conquer the Philistine, because it was one of those, it would be a mano-a-mano, one-on-one battle, and whoever wins has to,
go into captivity under them.
Yeah, whoever loses ends up captivity to the victor. Okay, so Saul says that the person who's willing to go out against Goliath will win the scriptures just say a great sums of wealth. Their family will be tax free, and they'll be able to marry his daughter Michal.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty good. So when David comes down and says that, I don't think he knows. The scriptures don't tell us if he knows what those sort of
rewards,
incentives are to go do the thing. His incentive is to be the person God's called him to be, to be the warrior God's called him to be.
Yeah.
In fact, when Saul goes to put his armor on David, because he's like, "Hey, you can't go out there like that." Saul gives him his armor. He's like, "I can't fight in this." There's this, you can impose upon me all the things you want. You can impose upon me the armor you think I should have. You can impose upon me these incentives. You can impose, his older brothers are telling him to be quiet and go home and get back to the sheep. You can impose upon me the motives you think I have. Everybody can do all of those things. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go out and be the person God's called me to be. Yeah. And in our Bible study group, we were talking about this, about how when he goes to somebody mentioned, they said, "I don't know why, but these 5 smooth stones stand out to me." So we were talking about it. And one of the things that came out was, it takes a while for a stone to become smooth. So, it was that stone in that riverbed or creek bed, had it been in there for a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it was, it predated that conflict. It may have even predated David as a person, which tells you that God had placed the resources needed to conquer his enemy before he even knew he had an enemy.
Right.
And we talked about how there are resources God is staging around us so that we can experience victory that predate us ever showing up to the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really long explanation to your question.
No,
What do
that's
I think
okay.
of when I think of warrior? Like that to me, I just think of this young man who's just like singularly focused on they have no business defying the armies of Israel.
Right.
Like who were they and why are we intimidated by that?
And literally he was a shepherd boy and the king's lyre player. Like no man of like valiance or like,
I think it's easy to kind of like think of like the Navy SEAL or the Army Ranger.
Because like Saul was this tall guy, shoulders and shoulders above people. So you would think, oh, naturally he would be the one that would go against Goliath.
And why isn't he? I mean, that's,
Right.
To me, that's when I think of a warrior, I think of that kind of person who is just like, they have just an incredibly clear vision of what the offenses should be.
Right. And like to think like the resource thing that you were saying, how like it says like David had gone against wolves and bears. So like those things even prepared him for this.
He had these prior experiences defending his sheep against wild animals.
To then be able to have no fear.
It was great because we were in this group and one of the guys brought a bag of rocks, like smooth stones. He said his church gave those out one day because they were doing a sermon on David and Goliath. And so we were talking about that. And then one of the guys brought up, he's from, what country is he from? Liberia. Mm. And that's how he hunted growing up, was with a slingshot. Oh. They would hunt birds.
Well, you know, what's one thing that I didn't notice is he had the slingshot in one hand and then his shepherd staff in the other.
Did he?
Yeah.
In the story?
Yeah.
Oh, that escaped me.
Yeah, which I think
I'll
is
have to go back and
interesting.
Look at
It's literally there. I checked it not that long ago. I was like, oh. So, because you'd think like, oh, he's going to put all his weight. No, he had his little staff.
Well, okay. Or maybe not so little staff.
Or rod.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those were things were like made of a type of wood to rescue and protect and guide and smack and all kinds of good stuff.
Right.
There's a whole, we could do a series on shepherd staffs. Okay. So we're talking about the warrior mindset. Now let's recap real quick. When we talk about the warrior mindset, we're talking about a mindset that is centered on Jesus and looks to him as the source of transformation through his grace.
Right.
It employs a systematic approach to living that promotes sustained growth and perseverance, especially through adversity. Now, this comes from a training that I've taught in the Navy, that I've been trained to train in the Navy, called Advanced Warrior Toughness Training. And we talk about this cycle of the warrior mindset. So we're going to talk about commitment today. Commitment leads to preparation, that leads to execution, that then leads to reflection. So it's this cycle that moves, and each time you move through the cycle, you've grown, and we talk about optimizing for performance, right? So I'm just a little bit better, I'm a little bit more mature, I'm a little bit more skilled than I was before I entered into all of this. And so if you haven't listened to part 1, we kind of set all of this up because we talk about why the importance of thinking about ourselves as warriors, as believers, as Christians, and how, anyway, go back and listen to that if you haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We're going to talk about commitment.
So the definition that we're going to talk about today is the disposition of being dedicated to a relationship, cause, or activity that will enable one experience what they envision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what commitment is. We're going to talk about attitudes and beliefs driving lower commitment.
Yeah. And So, but first, this definition.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that's in here is that it's a disposition of being dedicated to a relationship, cause, or activity that will enable one to experience what they envision. And I think all of us carry a vision in our minds of the person we sense we're supposed to be. Now, the question becomes, is that a vision that we've received from the Lord? Is that one we've concocted ourselves? Is that one we're receiving from the evil one? Is that one we're maybe even receiving from like our parents or other, mentors or coaches or teachers or folks, that have influenced and impacted us? So the question becomes, whose vision am I living by or living towards? Because that will shape your commitments in life, right? what I would argue is there's a vision that God has for your life. And I'm not saying it has to like be this finely tuned, crafted thing that's specific for you. Although we'll eventually talk about how do you develop a warrior ethos, which is an articulation of the vision you feel like the Lord has for you. But there's this way of like framing the type of person I know God's calling me to be. And I'm committed to that, even if it disappoints those around me, even if it means the enemy's going to come at me harder, even if I have to surrender what I think would be the best or most interesting or most exciting or safest or whatever it is, because the Lord is drawing me towards this idea. And I think everybody lives with that. I think not everybody thinks about it on a consistent basis.
Right. Yeah.
But we all have some vision of of who we are or how our lives are supposed to be. So today, culturally, when we talk about commitment levels are at the lowest they've ever been since we've been gathering these kind of statistics as a culture. Did you know this? Yeah, commitment is at its lowest level. And a lot of people say that's because there's a lot of institutional rot, that there's not a lot of confidence in our institutions, and oftentimes the institutions are the ones that become the driving factors of helping shape and cultivate commitment in our lives. So here are attitudes and beliefs that drive lower commitment. So as we're going through these, our encouragement is to think about, okay, how much of that is true in my life? When I think of what God is asking me to commit myself to, because part of the warrior mindset is I need to sit down and go like, what am I going to commit to? What am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do with my limited resources? What am I going to do with the strength and the power I have? What am I going to do with all of this so that I can channel that to accomplish the mission that needs to be accomplished, or to move forward to accomplishing what the Lord has, led me to, this vision I have for my life. Okay, so the first thing is this: attitudes and beliefs that are driving forces behind lower commitment. One is a short-term mindset. So many prioritize flexibility, personal well-being, and avoiding long-term obligations if they don't see clear benefits, seeking jobs and relationships that match their evolving values. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you see that? How so?
It's like these little, I don't know, perks where it's like they can be committed as long as it's short.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they need, because like commitment is not only like I'm committed to this thing, it's a mutual relationship. So not only do you have to like put trust in something has to put trust in you that you might not want. You might just want this to be one way. Like, how can I benefit from this versus it's a relationship and there's this pull, I guess.
And I think too, people like want their finger on the eject button.
Yeah.
Like the minute I'm not feeling it, boop, I want to get out
of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's driving a tremendous amount of loneliness in our culture is this short-term mindset. Okay, second.
Yeah. Skepticism and lack of loyalty. So after years of corporate downsizing and societal change, people are less willing to commit deeply. There's a widespread belief that loyalty is not reciprocated, so investment in institutions like work, organizations, or even marriage is even lower. And that's kind of not the same, but it's kind of like this, there's a responsibility on your end that people might not want to have.
Well, it used to be too, and this is like, a lot of these lean more towards like the vocational side of the house, because that's where a lot of studies have been done in these areas. So it becomes, last podcast episode, we were talking about the things you can measure. One of the things we can measure is like people's engagement in the workforce as an indicator of where commitment levels lie. Because the thing is if somebody's committed to a particular type of vocation and there's stability in that, the stability in that area contributes to the stability in other areas.
Yeah.
So if I know I'm going to be at this job and I know I'm on a path to, promotions, and I'm on a path to gaining more responsibility. And oftentimes what comes with that is bonuses or increased income, increased responsibility that isn't aligned with my giftings and my talents. And I'm working in an environment with people that I enjoy. Commitment level goes up, right? If I know I'm working in that environment and it's strengthened over time, then what's going to end up happening is I'm going to buy a home. Yeah. And I'm going to want to stay in that home. And I'm going to stay in that home and within that particular neighborhood. I'm going to build up those relationships with my neighbors. And I'm going to want to fill that home with a family because I find the bandwidth, relational bandwidth to be able to extend because I'm not worried about my finances because the bulk of where I spend the majority of my hours doing something is bringing fulfillment. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And so when the commitment level in a vocation becomes high, it raises sort of the commitment level in a lot of other areas of life. Obviously, there's always exceptions to these things. You can be vocationally in a high committed, environment, but at the expense of a lot of other healthy relationships, right? At the expense of your marriage or raising your kids or developing healthy friendships or, tending to your spiritual obligations, contributing to the larger community. So obviously this is all within balance, but when there's high skepticism and a lack of loyalty vocationally, it has these massive ripple effects that radiate out. Okay. Third, the need for meaningfulness. So meaningful work and authentic connections are more valued than titles or stability. So if people don't feel valued or find a sense of purpose, their willingness to commit plummets. In fact, there was a statistic I read. I think it was like 85% of people that leave work do not leave work because of the job. It's because of the way they were being managed at that job.
Interesting.
Yeah. In fact, I recently been doing a series of I gave like 25 15-minute presentations over the last week and a half. And one of the things I was talking about with folks is like how you can enter into the grind of something. You can be doing something really difficult and hard and moderately miserable. But if you're doing it with people you enjoy doing it with, like you're kind of okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's this shared commitment level that at least we got one another while we're grinding this out. The irony is the inverse can be true. You can be doing something that is cake, super easy. It doesn't require much of you. But if you do not enjoy the people you're doing it with, it's miserable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to be around this. I don't like, this is just makes me cranky. It makes me sad. It puts my head in a dark space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know this is easy, but like, being around these people is just, life sucking.
Yeah.
So anyway, one of the things I was talking about is like, so how do you turn that in your environment that regardless, it's oftentimes not the work, it's the people we're doing the work with that give us that sense of meaningfulness, give us that sense of purpose. Yeah. Okay.
Fourth is a desire for autonomy and personal growth. So generations like Gen Z.
Hey, that's you.
Oh my gosh, that like scared me. I like was so locked into reading that like made me jump.
You're Gen Z.
Yes, I am.
Hey, Gen Zer.
So Gen Z opts for roles that are often flexible, align with freedom, and align with their values. Commitment is high only when personal growth and fulfillment are perceived. I see that so much in college with like scheduling. The amount of my friends, I don't say this to discourage anyone, but I have friends that if they will drop classes because it doesn't leave them with enough autonomy. And I'm just like, but this is what you're here for.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, it's like, this isn't this. I don't feel like going to class, so I'll just drop it so it doesn't hurt my GPA and I'll do it later. It's like, well, no, well, it's like, well, maybe not that.
Well, again, like these are attitudes and beliefs driving lower commitment, right? So one of these things, we're not saying these are good things necessarily, right? My desire for autonomy and personal growth can be detrimental to being committed to something, because what if I don't feel like I'm growing? What if I don't feel a sense of autonomy?
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next, erosion of basic trust. So fewer people believe in institutions, like I was saying earlier. Fewer people believe that institutions have their best interests at heart. Declining trust, pressure, and organizational chaos all undermine commitment.
Yeah. And I feel like all jobs kind of offer that to get people to come in. It's like, here's the curb appeal. And then you get in it and it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and again, like trust it's really easy to lose. It's very hard to build. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, I don't want to go down these rabbit holes. Okay. And then last.
Burnout and overload. So constant change, uncertainty, and pressure to do more with less have left many exhausted, wary of overcommitting to something they feel might not last or be worth it.
Yeah.
And that could be for anything.
Yeah.
That one.
In addition to this, there's just a lot of things kind of going on culturally right now that contribute to lower levels of commitment. So we live in a subscriber-based world, right? So I think that's turning. There appears to be a lower tolerance for that. That seems to be waning, but nonetheless, we're still there. Like you don't have to own something. You can just subscribe to something because if you own it, it's going to cost you, 10x than if you just, rented it or subscribed to it. It's like this. Okay. So I'm looking at this. I'll give you an example of what this looks like culturally. I was looking through, I was like, our internet bill just went up. But I was able to negotiate it down. And then I was looking at the bill and I thought, what is this? This charge I have, $15 a month.
With the internet?
For the internet. Now my internet bill is $72 a month. Mm-hmm. But in that $72 is a $15 charge. Like, what is this? So I'm looking through it. It's to rent the modem.
What's the modem?
It's where the cable line comes in and screws in.
Oh.
And then I have the modem going into routers that provide internet throughout the house. I'm paying $15 a month to rent this modem. And now I can go out and buy a modem that meets the specifications that my internet company requires. And that's like a $200 purchase. So here becomes the question, which would I rather spend? $200 all at once? Or $15 a month. Now, here's the thing. Which one requires higher levels of commitment?
The 200.
The 200. At $15, if it breaks, I'm renting it. Like if it overheats or it doesn't work anymore, who has to fix it?
They do.
Yeah, my internet provider fixes it. So my commitment level is really low, but I'm paying $15 a month. So over here, though, I buy it, whereas now I'm committed. Now who has to maintain that?
Yeah.
Who has to make sure it's right? Yeah. But over the long run, where's the cost?
The 200.
The 200 becomes the lesser cost. Does that make sense? So anyway, I'm looking at buying a new modem.
It's like if you're selling one, hit me up.
I have very specific models in mind. But
Bye.
Yeah. But that's so you look at across the board, that's happening all over the place with us cultures. People they're not, part of the gig economy. Have you heard of that phrase, gig economy? So gig economy is like Uber drivers or Lyft drivers or DoorDash or it's people that they kind of have this side hustle or that is their hustle, but they're their own employee. So they're just doing gigs, right?
Yeah.
They're not working for an organization. They're not part of a team. They're not part of a community of people that are working towards something. So, we're living in this culture right now that when was the last time you bought a CD?
Oh, I can tell you.
Right. Actually, did you know that's on the rise?
CD purchases?
Yeah, CD purchases are starting to rise again. And it's you Gen Zers that are doing it. Because Gen Zers are realizing that, who was it? I just read, it was Disney. It was like one of the big entertainment companies that people had purchased digital movies through. And the company was like, yeah, those are no longer valid. you don't have access to those movies
But they
anymore.
bought them through the system.
They bought the digital version. They don't have a physical version of it. And so the whole thing is like, wait a minute, what is this? If we don't own it, then what did I spend the money on?
Yeah.
And so now there's kind of like this, I want the thing because then I have the thing, but that costs more, right? It requires a higher level of commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're seeing people like relationally are waiting longer to get married, right? They're waiting longer to have children. Like there's all of these things that are kind of reshaping the way we understand commitment today in our culture.
Yeah.
All right. Why does any of that matter? Why should we be mindful of that? Because the culture we are in shapes our minds about how we think about commitment.
Yeah.
In fact, you and I were just, prior to recording, we were talking about communication and how communication in relationships and with people isn't measured when it's easy. It's measured when it's hard.
Right.
Like good communication is measured when it's the most difficult
And
set of circumstances. Yeah, to do that. So how do you do that well? Because choosing to do something hard on a consistent basis reveals what you're committed to. Are you committed to the outcome that you envisioned? Are you committed to, seeing something happen that you feel like God's put upon your heart? Or are you committed to your comfort, your pleasure, your autonomy, what are those things?
Yeah.
Those values are going to start boiling up to the surface in the context of trials. Okay. So here's some things we're going to say that we're highlighting for what is required. And this is not an exhaustive list, but it gets our heads in a particular place. So here's some things to think about if I'm going to strengthen commitment in my life as it relates to the work that God has called me to do. Okay, so first, I have to guard my heart by letting God shape my commitments. If he isn't doing it, if he's not shaping my commitments, someone else is shaping my commitments. It might be me. I would guess that for most folks, it's not.
Yeah.
It's some type of external
influence
in our lives that we're allowing to have access to shape what we want to be committed to. So I have to guard my heart by letting God shape my commitments. And again, if he's not doing it, somebody else will. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from that. So this is the place where the commitments are made.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this thing. Well, that's going to be hard. I'm doing this thing. Well, what if people don't like it? I'm doing this thing. It's going to cost you way more than you think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I choose to do that. Okay. Second.
2, they don't look back and daydream about what could have been, looking forward to what God has next for them with anticipation. So Luke 9:62 says, Jesus said to him, no one who puts his hands to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. And there's like this drive, like God's committed relationship with you is for you to always be pressing in and not being like, no, there's room for reflection and like looking back and being like, okay, like so God's provision will help me keep my commitment. Like I need to remember God's faithfulness so I can keep my commitment. But then there's also another pole where there's a set time where you should look back and then look back forward.
Well,
and not stay stuck.
There's a difference between reflecting and daydreaming.
True. And wishing something else would have turned out or...
this was several years ago now. But when kind of Facebook was sort of newish, like everybody was on Facebook and connecting with old friends and things like that. Like over the next 5 years, 70% of divorce cases referenced Facebook in their proceedings.
After 5 years of Facebook being a thing?
Yeah.
Why?
Because people were getting divorces because they were hooking up with old high school sweethearts. They were hooking up with old neighbors. They were hooking up with old coworkers. They were hooking up with, all of a sudden it was like, I can go back and find these like have access to this Rolodex of people that are in my past. And it comes at the expense of the commitment I made today. And so there's this, so we're in a, particularly right now, like we're living in a very much, we're living in a time where even a lot of movies we show, how much of the movies are about nostalgia? They're trying to pluck the heartstrings of, the nostalgic beats. Don't you remember when? Wouldn't you like it if, right? And I get it. Like I'm not immune to any of that. But it shouldn't shape my commitments. It's one thing to look back and feel nostalgic in a way that produces appreciation. It's another thing to look back and be nostalgic and daydream, right? You're dreaming about the life you could have had and it facilitating discontentment. That's something different.
And distrust.
And it produces that, right? Because then I start looking around today and going like, well, this doesn't make me feel as good.
Yeah.
This isn't as fun. I don't know if,
this is the solution. That it's like, no.
Yeah. And so people end up bailing on their commitments today because they've built literally a fantasy in their mind through daydreaming. And it's a fantasy. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's not a vision. And what's the difference between a fantasy and a vision? Living out the vision God has for you will cost you.
Yeah.
Living out a fantasy promises to like fuel something in your life that costs you very little, but promises everything. The irony is they're both completely inverted. Being committed to what God calls you to will cost you everything. And then you'll realize in light of what it cost you, you gain everything, right? You gain the world, or you gain the Lord, you gain healthy relationships, you gain a life of meaning and purpose. Like you get that. And it cost me surrendering my life to the Lord. Okay. That was worth it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Fourth thing. So again, these are 4 things people do with that have growing contentment with God. They prepare and are willing to lose their life for Jesus.
Yeah.
They prepare and are willing to lose their life for Jesus. Luke 9:23-24, Jesus said, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." That's literally, I just kind of made the point before making the point, right? That how do you get to that deeper level of commitment? You go, I'm willing to lose it all for the Lord.
Yeah.
Like I'm in that place. Whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it.
And then a lot of people are like, that's dumb. That's stupid. Like, why would you do that? And then that feeds into our commitment to God sometimes is what other people say. All the time. I was listening to a sermon at Regent. I forget his name. Mom knows. And he was put into a foreign prison because he was a missionary and would do all this work
like smuggling Bibles. All that kind of stuff.
And they caught him and they arrested him and his wife and let the wife go 3 years. And then he was in jail for 2 years in this foreign prison. And he's like, in that moment, it like breaks you so hard because he's in this foreign prison with people that aren't shaped by God and he doesn't even have the Bible. So here he is isolated. And he's like, when I came out of that and like he got saved and the US got him out of that. And he was like, I've never had a deeper appreciation for those who are willing to give their life for God that other people would think they're nuts, like nuts in the head. And there's people that you're just like, they're not right, but they love Jesus, And it's like, he's like, I can't wait to meet them when I go to heaven. And so I just like think of that every time when there's people that are willing to lose their life and it looks like it's super crazy, but it's because they desperately love Christ.
Yeah. And we're not saying like, sacrifice in and of itself is not noble.
Right.
Sacrifice in obedience to God is what we're called to do, right? So there's this. I remember this came up. I was sitting in seminary class, and I had a great professor, massive mentor in my life, Terry Wardle, and he said, "The more you sacrifice, the closer you draw closer to the Lord." And I was like, right away, going like, "I don't think so." Like, that doesn't sound right. And so my hand shoots up in the air, and he goes, "Yeah, Milo." I was like, all right, so I painted this picture for him. I said, here's the thing. I'm at this seminary, Ashland Theological Seminary, great seminary, learned a lot, deeply appreciated my education experience there. And Terry says, I said, so I'm at the seminary. I'm in this beautiful facility. Our professors are very well educated. I don't know how they're paid, but I'm assuming they're comfortable. They're living a very good life. And I believe I have yet to meet a professor that I don't think has a growing relationship with the Lord. I genuinely believe all my professors loved the Lord and were like exploring ways to draw closer to him. Love that. I said, the Bible college I went to, Kentucky Mountain Bible College, professors don't get paid. They have to raise their support like missionaries to teach at this Bible college. And it is a Bible college with minimal resources. And phenomenal. I got a phenomenal education there. Like, that's where I learned the scriptures, like in and out. I learned some really good practical ministry skills. Like that laid a really, really good foundation for me. But I shared in the class, I said, those professors are not living, they're not starving to death, but they're not necessarily financially comfortable. Like, sometimes they're wondering if they're going to have enough money to buy their kids clothes for the new school year. And that's a luxury. Like, they don't take vacations to fancy places. Their vacation is going and visiting family, right? It's so, and I said, I have a hard time believing that my professors at Ashland Theological Seminary who are pursuing God are any less closer to Christ than my professors at Kentucky Mountain Bible College, even though they're from our vantage point, they would be sacrificing more. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And he said, actually, he says, he always kind of looked at me like, wow, this is a really long illustration to ask your question. But he said, let me rephrase that. Those that make the sacrifices the Lord is calling them to make will grow in intimacy with the Lord. You are not supposed to make the sacrifices that God is asking somebody else to make. You are to make the sacrifices God is calling you to make. And by stepping into that, you gain intimacy with him.
Yeah.
Because when I make the sacrifices the Lord is calling me to make, where do I have to put all my trust?
God.
I put my trust in him, that he's going to make up the difference, that he's going to see us through regardless of the amount of sacrifice that's being made. But if I'm just doing sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice, because I think this is a holy or noble thing, it doesn't get me anywhere, because it's not aimed at his kingdom purposes. It's aimed at my own like spiritual, personal well-being and and accomplishment, which is pointless. Yeah. Like that's that it kind of comes back to why are commitment levels so low? It's like, well, because people can't experience autonomy and personal growth. It's like, well, the Lord did not save you for autonomy and your own personal growth. Will you grow? Yes. Will you learn? Will there be times when you have to practice some autonomy? Not from him, but you're just going to have to do what you need to do regardless of the people that are involved? Yes. Yeah. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
4.
Last one.
Yeah. Their whole constitution. Okay, wait, let me read the prompt again for those who are like, okay, 4 things
what are we talking about?
People with the growing commitment to God do. So if you're committed to God, this is what one of the 4 things that they do is their whole constitution is aimed at loving God and others. Mark 30, through 31 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. And, there comes a point when loving God reveals your relationship with God. Like your love for him, then he'll show you how much he loves you. And then there's this perception of, I am a warrior in Christ. Like then it reveals your identity because you can't love your neighbor well if you don't love yourself well. Like there's this relationship that there's this three-way to it of, I gotta love God in order to see how he sees me, in order that I can have a perception of what myself is because God says this is who I am, so that I can love others because I know God also sees them in a particular way that I have to learn to love them because he loved me the way he sees me. So it's
yeah, no, you're right. Good job.
Thanks. It's a lot of work. It's like, I hope I didn't.
You did good. You're like drawing lines.
I am. So look at the video.
Some of these are going to go over one another
again. We don't have an image for that in the show. Anyway.
Well, because it's love your neighbor as yourself, right? Yeah. And if I don't have a healthy sense of self-respect and self-care and an appreciation
for who God made me to be.
Yeah, who God made me to be. If I'm dismissive of myself, I can be dismissive of others.
Yes. Or it's the wrong view of others. And you don't think highly of yourself.
I think lowly of myself, and I'm going to love others for the purposes of building my self-esteem, which is not what God is saying.
Right.
God isn't saying, love your neighbor so you feel good about yourself. Mm-hmm. That's not what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, no, this whole idea of my whole constitution is aimed at loving God and loving others, not for anything I get out of it.
Yeah.
The objective is not my own personal growth and well-being. So again, my commit, and this is where the warrior mindset is. The warrior mindset is not about self-preservation. That is not anything that anybody's committed to. Now, it's not to mean that I'm doing things that are destructive, right? I don't engage in destructive attitudes or behaviors, but I'm not, and I don't take unnecessary risks, right? But self-preservation is a means to an end, and the larger end is to accomplish God's kingdom purposes.
Yeah.
Right. So like earlier when we were talking about, the warrior mindset is centered on Jesus and looks to him as the source of transformation through grace. It employs a systematic approach to living that promotes sustained growth and perseverance, especially through adversity. So this mindset then is, okay, well, what do I have to be committed to when God, leads me to a place that it is incredibly difficult and challenging in, a wide variety of ways. How do I stick through it? How do I stay the course? How do I stay committed? Okay. So to recap, here's some of and again, this is not an exhaustive list, but I think it's a good starter. And I think this is a good thing to ask myself. Okay, where am I at a scale of 1 to 5? Where would I say? So the mindset of the person who prioritizes, or who's growing in their commitment to God. So the first is this: they guard their heart by letting God shape their commitments. Okay, so where am I at with that? How much is God shaping my commitments? And am I guarding my heart so that I can even hear that and prioritize those things? Second, they don't look back and daydream about what could have been. They look forward to what God has next for them with anticipation. Okay, so how much of my life, when I kind of get in my head, is I'm gaining a sense of I'm moving towards a vision of what the Lord has for me? Or am I daydreaming about the past?
Yeah. And I think we can tend to do that when we lose the sense of anticipation.
Yes.
Or like when we're in like a dull season and we don't feel like God has anything for next to us. Because sometimes God just wants you to wait and like stay in these seasons and be patient. And it's in those quiet moments then you try to find ways to entertain those moments.
Yeah, exactly. Third, they're prepared and willing to lose their life for Jesus. Like, I'm committed to that end. Like, that's
what a warrior does. Like, I'm this team, and if anything happens, like, I put my effort into this team.
Yeah, I'm willing to go to that. Yeah. To that point, to that level.
And you're not surprised, like, if I die. Like, nope, this is what I signed up for. This, versus others are like, I didn't think I signed up for this. It's like, you did.
Yeah. It's interesting because years ago, Chaplain Bruce Crowderfield, I'd been with the Marines for my first tour. I was with a 2nd Marine Air Wing. Mag 14, largest mag of the Marine fleet. And one of the things that he told me was that he says Marines love their chaplains, because I was getting ready to go to the Navy, the blue side of the house. And he said, you're going to find that not necessarily the case with sailors. And I said, why do you think that is? Because I had heard this before. And he said, we're winding down our time in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said, when Marines deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan, they know they're not coming back with everybody. Therefore, they know they're going to need their chaplain. When a captain pushes out on his ship, I don't think he's thinking that way. I think he expects to come back with everybody, because it's been a really long time since we lost a ship at sea. And as I've thought about that, I thought that's very much been my experience. And like I tell people unabashedly, one of my responsibilities as a chaplain is to help prepare sailors and Marines to die. Like, are you ready to die? Are you ready to make the ultimate sacrifice that this country is going to ask you to make? So what do you have to do to square things up with your maker? And what do you have to do to square things up with your family? Those are my 2 questions. Get those things in good order. And now you're ready to die. Guess what? What did Jesus say? Now that you're ready to die, now you're ready to live. Because you've created the priorities. When you say, I'm going to order my life so I'm ready to go at a moment's notice, all of a sudden your priorities become really clear. This is what matters. And here's the things that don't really matter. I'm not going to stress these things. It doesn't mean I neglect them.
Yeah.
Right. Small issues can become big issues, but I'm going to keep them small issues. I'm not going to make small issues big issues, because I'm going to make the big issues the big issues.
Yeah.
So, okay. So 3rd, they're prepared and willing to lose their life. And then 4th, their whole constitution is aimed at loving God and others.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about this warrior toughness, we're talking about this cycle.
Yeah.
And all begins with this commitment. What are you committed to doing? So sometimes it's the mission. Sometimes it's here's the list of taskers I have to get done today. Here's the,
family relationships.
Yeah, here's the relationships that I need to, keep tended well. What we're saying is as believers, how do we order our whole life in a way that we're aimed at what God is calling us to be aimed at? How can we be committed in that sort of way? All right. Any closing thoughts? We're gonna have fun with this. This is like super motivating for me, because I personally think among the armed forces, those that believe in God should be some of the most clear-headed, clear-eyed warriors we have. Because the sort of internal character and ethos that's required to pursue Christ well is what is required to be a good warrior for our country, but also be a good employee or a good employer or a good father or a good mother or a good daughter or a good son or a good friend or a good neighbor or whatever it is, because we just have that level of clarity in our lives. And I would say, if you don't have that kind of clarity in your life, listen through this series, maybe even go back and listen to that first episode, or maybe re-listen to it and kind of go like, man, am I even aware that I'm in a battle? Am I even aware that there is a warfare going on that I'm expected to be engaging in? And I need to sort of think through my priorities with that battlefield in mind.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. We want to thank you guys for listening. You can follow us on Instagram.
We have a Resilient Lineage page on both Instagram and Facebook, so follow us there. And
You
then
can,
our individual pages.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that
You can look at my
subscribe,
lines.
crush that alert bell.
Yeah.
Is that my saying it right? Smash the subscribe button.
I don't know if that sounded better.
No. Anyway, you know what you're supposed to do because you've seen everybody else ask you to do it. And then if you want to get a hold of us personally, you can message us through those platforms.
Encourage us.
You can email us, hello@thisresilientsoul.com. we're always looking for ways to improve the podcast and hear from our listeners. So we welcome that opportunity to hear from you. I want to thank you guys for joining us today, and we pray that you go with God
and be at peace.